Delighted to be joined right now by Liberal Democrat MP Christine Jardine. Good morning to you, Christine.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. I want to talk about the bill on assisted dying that comes to Parliament. 5 hours of debate, then a vote on Friday. It's a private member's bill. You're a co-signatory of Kem Leadbeater's bill. Why do you believe that this is the right way and the right time to bring in assisted dying?
Well, the first thing is that it's a free vote. We've had a Common Select Committee report. It spent 14 months on an inquiry, and we've had various debates. And now Kim has brought this forward as a private member's bill because it is an issue of conscience. It's up to every individual MP. It's nothing to do with party politics to make the decision on the basis of the public in their constituency, their own views, and the views that we've heard. And I think it's the right time because it's 10 years since Parliament last debated it fully with legislation like this. And we know from various surveys that have been done over those 10 years that the British public is in favour of a very narrow definition of a terminal illness with safeguards built in that would give people choice. And for me, that's the big thing. I don't know what I would want to do, Julia, but I don't feel I have the right to deny other people the choice.
And this is the thing, actually. The public has been way ahead of MPs on this, and I thought the same in 2015. I'm instinctively very much in favour of this right being extended to people, but I'm in the strange position of thinking, well, I think this bill goes too far. It doesn't have quite enough safeguards, but at the same time doesn't go far enough. I would like it to include not just people with just 6 months to live, people with a year to live, but also people who are not necessarily going to die anytime soon or at all of their particular predicament, whether a disability or disease, an injury. But if they feel their life is unbearable, they are in pain, I think that anybody should have the right to end their life, but with the proper safeguards. What do you make of the... I mean, I know why Kem Leadbeater wanted it to be just specifically about assisted dying. It's not going down the route of a lot of countries like, certainly like, you know, the Netherlands and Belgium. We've got far wider range. But what do you make of the claims of the critics? And we've seen many critics come out. We've had Boris Johnson, Theresa May and Liz Truss, 3 former prime ministers now speaking out against the bill, and many others who are simply saying, look, you know, they can understand the urge for this, they understand it, but they feel that this is a slippery slope. And where are the safeguards? And in so many parts of the world and in American states, there has been a slippery slope, and these who's eligible has massively expanded. And I know Oregon has been where this has been based on. Why do you feel that this law, if it were brought in this country, wouldn't see that slippery slope happening?
Well, you actually, the answer to that was in your own question. You talked about where it's very wide in Netherlands and Belgium because they went for a definition based on unbearable suffering, and that's very subjective. What is unbearable suffering to you might be different to me. It's very subjective, and then it does get widened, and disabled people are unhappy. Disabled organisations are unhappy that that sort of definition would allow an expansion, and you would go down the route of Belgium or the Netherlands. The reason that it's based on what's happened in Oregon and other places like Australia, New Zealand, Spain, who've introduced assisted dying since the last time we debated it 10 years ago, is that that's a very tight definition of terminal illness, of someone who has a diagnosis and they are going to die. That sounds very harsh. And believe me, talking to people who are in that situation, you know, it's incredibly difficult, but it gives them the choice. And it's limited to those people, and they have to have a 6-month diagnosis, told that they probably only have 6 months to live, 2 doctors, there has to be a High Court judge, and we also have to have the safeguards protect them from any suggestion of coercion.
How do we do that, though? That's the difficulty. And there's also talk about people being pressured. I think it's perfectly valid for someone to say, I don't want to be a burden on my family. I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to say, you know, I don't. If I've been given a dementia diagnosis and I'm going to basically spend, you know, 5 years possibly in a care home, not knowing who I am, distressing my family. Do you know what? I think it's perfectly reasonable for me to say, I don't want that. But I mean, I know that wouldn't be allowed under this bill. I think to a certain extent it should be with sufficient safeguards. But who's to know what is coercion and what is persuasion and what is someone making a decision off their own back?
Well, you said yourself, if someone says, I don't want I believe one of the high-profile campaigners, Esther Ranson, has said that she doesn't want her family's last memory of her to be of her in pain. And I listened to a woman who came to see us in Parliament talking about her brother's death and how traumatic it was. I'm not going to go into it here, but it was incredibly unpleasant, and how traumatic that was for his family. But that's your choice. Coercion is where someone else is forcing you to do it. Now, doctors are increasingly trained to do that. And one of the safeguards in the bill is that if a GP is in any doubt whatsoever, or a doctor's in any doubt, they can get another medical practitioner. They can get a psychiatrist, psychologist, someone else who can come in who has expertise in recognising if someone is showing behaviour which would suggest that they're being coerced into this, who would be able to talk to them. So the safeguards are there, because I do think that is important. And I think, but again, it comes back to terminal illness. That has to be the basis of it, and choice. And I just don't think that I have the right to deny something. I've like many people, I've watched relatives die in horrible, people that I love in difficult circumstances, horrible circumstances. And once I was myself in the situation where I had to wait to find out how serious a growth which had been removed was. And I'd had all the warnings from the doctors. And looking back now, I don't know what decision I would have made if the news they gave me was different. But I would have liked to have had the choice.
Yes.
And I think other people deserve the choice.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. There's something that I've always felt as well, and it's quite interesting actually how many people who've watched loved ones die who actually, that has been a change for them. Now, there's some talk about this bill being scrapped even before it's voted on. There's a group of cross-party MPs who have basically scheduled, they've co-sponsored what they called a fatal reasoned amendment, and basically it's a bill which would effectively, if it's chosen, they vote on it during the second reading, but it'll come before a vote on the actual bill takes place. And if it does take place and it gets past this amendment vote, basically it's this House declines to give a second reading to the terminally ill adults end-of-life bill because the House's procedures for the consideration of private members' bills do not allow for sufficient debate on and scrutiny of a bill on a matter of this importance. They're basically saying, we've only had a couple of weeks, it's only 5 hours of debate. It's not enough time. We haven't had all of the sort of the preparations and analysis of how this would work, all the preparations that a government bill would be able to bring. This isn't the time or place to do this. That's a fair argument, isn't it?
Not really. Not when you take into account the situation at the moment and what we've been through already in Parliament. We had, a select committee inquiry which consulted with all the groups. They talked to all the MPs. We all submitted evidence. There was consultation. Also, it is absolutely normal for something like this to be a private member's bill. When it's come before Parliament before, it has been a private member's bill.
And I think abortion as well, again, moral arguments. Yeah.
And what happens on Friday is the start, in some ways, of the parliamentary debate, because we've had various Westminster Hall debates in the chamber over the past 7 years that I've been here. And now we have the second reading of a bill. We actually have a proposition to consider. 5 hours on Friday, but then that's just the start.
And then it goes through all the other readings.
Committees, report, third reading, goes through the
we shall see what's going to happen. Now, I know that, your party leader, by the way, he is he's tackled some very difficult issues. He's very good on issues like social care. I know he's personally had to deal with that in his own family with a disabled child, and he's been a valiant fighter on that front. What on earth is going on with him with this video, though? Let's play a video of the latest TikTok challenge that has been issued by your boss.
Bring the boom strong, bring the boom and no fear, bring the boom was the song of the summer this year. Put them on the boom meter, we're gonna rate it. Put the fries in the bag now, already ate it. Boom and doom in the restaurants, making some noise, taking the field.
Yeah, for those of you who have the misfortune of watching on YouTube, you've just seen a video outside Parliament of Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, doing some rather strange dance and some words coming up on screen in which he's challenging Keir Starmer to a 1v1 FIFA match. Basically, that's an online game, and basically says he wants to do it for charity. It's a number of videos he's done. What on earth is going on? This isn't serious politics, is it, Christy?
I think he genuinely is trying. He's raising money for charity, and the way to attract attention to something you want to do for charity is to make it fun and something that people understand. Lots of people play FIFA, and he's challenging Keir Starmer. Now, having seen Ed dance lots of times, I would plead with Keir Starmer, please play the game. Please don't let us have to watch him dancing on TikTok, please.
Christine, thank you very much indeed. Christine Jardine, thank you so much for joining us. Benedict